Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this video, I'm going to talk about fishing because I'm not able to go out fishing right now. I mean, obviously, I've got a boat here, so I could go fishing, but I did end up, cleaning this boat up. It is ready for somebody to come over, test drive, and buy the darn thing. So I just don't want to clean it up again. So until my new boat is ready, all I can do is talk about fishing because I'm not getting out on the water at all. But anyways, on this video today, I wanted to talk about the three things that you need to be looking for right now during the winter time on pretty much any lake that you're fishing. Some of these things, one or two of these things may resonate with the fishery that you like to fish during the winter time. All of them may resonate, or maybe just one may be the ticket, but I'm pretty confident that one of these three at least will be something that you can apply and start catching fish on whatever lake you're fishing. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. These are three things that by far, if I don't know what's going on the lake, I look for these and it's pretty consistent. The first scenario that I want you guys to really pay attention to, and what I'm also going to do before we get into this, the tackle that I would use in each scenario that I would suggest to start with is going to be in the description below. I'll just go ahead and outline, hey, listen, for this, I like to use this bait, and I like, these colors or whatever. I'm just going to outline the tackle choices. And then corresponding with that, I'm going to have the affiliate links to Tackle Warehouse next to that. So if you're going to buy the products anyways, consider using those affiliate links in the description because that just helps this channel. It's a great way to support Sonar Fishing. So anyways, let's dive right into it. The first scenario that I want to talk about is the last remaining grass on a fishery. This is something that you may be on a fishery that doesn't have any grass. There's some fisheries around the country that just don't have really any grass to speak of. But I think that's very few fisheries out there, because even highland reservoirs like Dale Hollow is deep, clear, very steep banks for the most part. Even that lake has some areas that have some grass. There's some areas I love to fish that have a good amount of grass even during the wintertime. Lake Chickamauga definitely has some grass. Even though they lower the water, the biggest problem here is when they drop the water to winter pool. That's 6 or 7 feet that they drop the water. That's generally the depth that the grass is growing. But there's still some areas that are still holding some grass in that like 2 to 3 foot range. And that is a big, big deal. The last remaining grass on a fishery generally is to a point where it's not decaying anymore. It's not dying anymore. So it's not really taking up as much oxygen. But it's generally still fairly healthy because it's to a point where most of it has died off that was choking out the light penetration to the roots. And now what's left is, still fairly alive. But whenever you have, hydrilla or milfoil specifically, coontail is one that frustrates me to no end because it looks perfect on the graph. It's always nice and crispy, crunchy, fresh. But I hardly ever have any success out of coontail. I don't know what it is about that certain variety of grass. And a lot of people mistake it for either hydrilla or milfoil, but just look it up online. But milfoil and hydrilla, if you find that, or even eelgrass, really, really good scenario during the wintertime because there's not a lot of it and bass love to be around grass. And I think it mostly has to do with just the ecosystem that grass brings to the table. You've got lots of crawfish that love to feed on the vegetation and whatever is, walking around the vegetation, whatever's on it. And so you've got a big ecosystem around grass. And if you've got some that is still fresh, green, and lively, you know, that is something that you need to explore. And obviously things like lipless crankbaits, chatterbaits, and small swim baits, those are all really good tactics, but you can also use like jerk baits and things like that on grass. But if you find grass, definitely fish it. On Chick here, it seems like grass that is close to the main lake or like right on the main lake, but not quite like getting blasted by current. That's kind of the key, is finding that grass that is like, you know, a little bit protected, but still has some current influence on it. All right, so the next thing that you want to look for, I wrote them all down because I can't remember anything. Rock transitions. Okay, so rock transitions are probably one of the most universally recognized wintertime type of you know, high percentage areas that I know of. Pretty much every lake around the country has rock on the bottom. They may not have grass, but they've got rock, and they've got where one type of rock or one size of rock transitions into either no rock at all, like mud or sand, or like another size of rock, or a different type of rock altogether. But those transition lines that you find on most lakes, that is kind of the key. That is a high percentage area, and it can be in a lot of different areas. Like literally, it could be on a nothing bank, and then all of a sudden you've got this vein of shale that just, you know, just tapers down into the water on a seemingly clay bank, and fish will just flock to that one little nothing bank where that transition is, and you can catch, you know, one or two fish or a bunch of fish. So transition banks just in general are just something that really do well. I generally look for those transitions on like points, main lake, or secondary points leading into a back of a creek or a creek arm or something like that. I also look for it on what we call transition banks, which are essentially the bank between that last secondary point and the back of a creek. And when you have that, like, you know, that rock transition, that's where those fish are going to hang on. Another transition would be like, you know, like a bluff bank, which we're also going to get into in the next one. But in general, if you're on a lake that has a lot of rock, look for those areas where it's transitioning from you know, one type of you know, rock or bottom composition to another, and that's a really good place to start. All right, so the next deal that I really love to key in on during the wintertime is a bluff or channel swing bank. All right, so if you have a channel, you know, if you're looking at a map and you got the channel, you know, snaking through an area or a creek or something like that, especially like a pocket, if you got like a little channel that swings in towards the bank just for a short stretch, maybe it's like 30, 40, 50 feet or something like that, that is dynamite. That little channel swing bank where the channel swings in right to the shoreline, that denotes that there's a steeper bank. So the water is going to drop off a lot faster. And even if we're talking about like a difference between 2 foot on the flat and 5 foot on that channel swing bank, that's still a big enough you know, difference. And so the fish are gonna hang out there as opposed to like on the shallower side of that bank or whatever, or on the flat in the back of the creek. So always look for those channel swing banks. The most obvious sign of a channel swing bank is like a bluff bank. So if you're going down the lake and then all of a sudden one bank is just straight, you know, rock wall, that's where the channel is swinging in towards that bank, you know, and creating that bluff wall. Not all channel swings or bluff walls are created equal. Most of them, if not all of them, are going to hold fish, but the ones that are going to be really productive are generally in the back of a, you know, not in the back of a creek, but in some sort of prominent creek or arm. And the reason for that is that you got to think about like the migrations that these bass are constantly doing. You know, in the fall, they follow the shad into the backs of the creeks, and then as soon as the shad start kind of moving out towards the main lake, you know, the fish start suspending more, and a lot of them just lock into those little channel banks or those bluff walls where it's deeper, and they just, you know, for them to go from the bottom to the surface, following structure is nothing. You know, it's just 20 foot instead of having to go, you know, laterally somewhere. So anyways, bluff banks are definitely one that I look for a lot nowadays. So anyways, I just wanted to run through some of the primary scenarios that I like to look for this time of year for catching fish. So if you're going to a fishery that you haven't been to before or haven't been to for a long time or never fished during the winter time, these are 3 things that you got to look for, and I feel confident that you'll start catching some fish. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you're interested in the baits that I would use in these scenarios, I've got some suggestions, like I said before, in the description below, along with the affiliate links for Tackle Warehouse. And so, yeah, use those if you're going to purchase this stuff anyways. I'm going to see you out on the water. Make sure you trust the process.